Right.
Hi, Sonia.
Hello, Jack. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay. Good.
Can you-
You're outside.
Yeah. Can you hear me? All right? I'm normally back home in the office, but I forgot we had an inspection.
Right. You got what's that?
We had a house inspection. Well, we have a house inspection, so I was like, oh, I gotta go duck down and find somewhere. So, just outside.
I'm just trying to get my thing set up so it looks half decent. I was going to go outside actually because I thought it was warmer out there, but this is not making much difference here. It was hard to get the angles right on these.
Yeah, it's all good.
No, that's a bit better. Right.
Beautiful. How's the are you down in Melbourne at the moment?
Yes, I'm in Port Melbourne at the moment.
Yep. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks for jumping on. Appreciate it. Hopefully it's not too noisy.
That's all right. You probably get lots of birds. I know I've done stuff outside before, a podcast, and it's amazing. The birds are so loud.
Yeah, I know.
And you don't notice it, but the people who are listening to you notice.
Yeah, probably actually. Yeah.
Especially if they're not from Australia.
Yeah, absolutely.
They really notice it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously we're just doing a bit of a running summit, just jumping on and getting some insight, and hopefully some value for runners out there and help them grow as a runner. So appreciate you jumping on. So to start things off, do you want to just give a bit of an intro about how you got into running and a bit of a background about yourself?
Yeah, well, I suppose it was quite a while ago now, when I was back in school in Cove in Ireland, and I started running with my club, Ballymore Cove Athletic Club, which was based at the track, which was at the school, but the track, it's not a track like most people would know a track. It was a road track around a field. But that was all we knew. So it was about, it's not quite 600 meters around, but it was a good distance. And we used to just meet there and go for a run. And back in the 80s, there really wasn't, very many other choices sports for girls to do. So it was just something for me to do with my friends. And we really enjoyed the training, and then also going away on the weekend to different races. And I think, when you get that first taste of success in running races, then, it's quite a nice feeling. So you want to have some more of that. And so, I didn't win all my races when I was at school, and, that was probably good too, because I was often challenged. And I suppose when you can win, then you're always trying hard to get back to that again. So that was my school days. And then when I finished school at Cove Vocational School, I went to college in America, to Villanova University. And the big attraction for me there was, so when I was at home in Cove, I did a lot of training by myself. And I quite enjoyed it. My coach would set me a program and I would do what he told me to do. And then, you get yourself fit and ready, and you'd go out and run races. And, you could see when you put in the work, the results that you get back. But I always wanted to, I suppose, train with other people and to be pushed and challenged in training. So that was my main attraction to go to America, was to be a part of a team and to have other people to train with. And I went to Villanova University. A bit of, I suppose, a rocky first couple of years just to get used to it. And then also, I had a few injuries, so I had to get over that. And, it was all probably part of the growing up stage. And, you have 4 years over there, so there's time to grow and develop. And you compete against athletes who are similar age and ability to yourself. So you can take those stepping stones along the way and gradually improve and, move up from being a junior athlete to a senior athlete. And then, just when I finished college in 1991, it was just 1 year out from the Olympics in Barcelona. But I wasn't, that wasn't a big goal of mine. It was still one step at a time. In 1991, I got to run in the World University Games. And again, that was another stepping stone along the way. I got to taste success, won the 1500 meters and second in the 3000 meters. Going in, I would have thought I would, have been more favored to win the 3000. So I suppose you just have to take your chances when they come along. And when one race doesn't work out, then you go out and you try and take advantage of the second race, which was the 1500 meters. So that was, I suppose, a big deal, being a world championship, on the university level. And then I suppose for me, the real kind of step up to international competition and competing with the best on the world was at the Olympics in 1992. And, finishing fourth there, that gave me a lot of confidence and belief in myself that I, belonged at that level and could compete, with these girls who were out there fighting for the medals.
Absolutely, that's great. Congratulations on all that. What was, from all those experiences, what was one of the biggest things that you learned that you would recommend someone to focus on in order to grow as a runner?
I think, I suppose, you learn a lot of things looking back rather than at the time, because at the time you're always in a rush, to get to the next thing. And, you feel like you're always under pressure to be ready to race, and you don't want to be missing out when you're injured. And, when you're growing and developing as an athlete. So I think looking back, the lessons that, I suppose I did eventually learn them over time and was able to implement them into my training, is to be patient and, not to rush things. And, there's a lot of time out there. There's a lot of races out there. So, if you're not ready for one race, then, just be patient and wait, for the next race. There's no point rushing it and not getting it right. You're better off to, prepare properly. And the more well prepared you are, then the better you feel when you stand on the starting line, because you know that you can go out and you can compete. It doesn't mean that you're going to win, but it means that you can compete and you can put in a good performance. And I think there's a lot of, I suppose, importance in an athlete is on the work that they do and the work that they put in. And I think when you look back on that, when you stand on the start line, then you can stand there confident that you can go out there and deliver a good performance.
Beautiful. That's great. You touched on your training. What would a typical training week look like?
Well, I suppose it changes over time, but I suppose at the highest level in the 90s, my training week would have been, you'd run twice every day, except Sunday. Sunday was one run, which was a long run.
Oh,
so that was kind of a rest day,
Yeah.
You had, if you finish your run at 10 o'clock and you don't run again until 9 or 10 o'clock the next day, then you nearly have 24 hours rest.
Exactly, yeah. That's it.
So you can kind of have a fake rest day in there. But yeah, I mean, it was normally training sessions would be Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. And the Tuesday was normally a hard track session. It would be longer efforts. I can't even remember what on the track. I mean, it varied, I suppose, depending on the time of year as well. I mean, we did a lot of 800 meter efforts. And it always kind of added up to about 5,000 meters of hard efforts. And, depending who you were running with, was, I suppose, how hard you would push yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
And then, Thursday was kind of more, it would either be a threshold type session. So we used to often go to a cricket field in London and run around there. So you'd run 1 lap or 2 laps, which would be about a half mile or a mile. But, you don't want to be going at a certain pace. Or if it was summertime, then you might run faster 400 meter efforts. And Saturday then, if it wasn't racing season, was often hills was a big thing. And get out over to Richmond Park and do some either 1 minute hills or 3 minute hills. But, I had a few different coaches down through the years, and, I suppose it changed over time. the way I used to train. And towards the end, when I was coached by Alan Story, I think I started to get a better understanding of training. And I think when you have that, if you can understand why you're doing certain sessions, then you're more able to do them better.
Yeah.
Whereas otherwise, I think a lot of people, when they go training from a young age, I think if it's a track session, then you got to go out there and smash yourself. But it's much better if you get the understanding of what you're trying to get out of the session, and it can be a more balanced session. I suppose one thing I always did tend to do with track sessions is we always finish strong, finish fast. And it was just a bit of a game, you know, particularly when I used to train on Tuesday nights at the Kings Meadow track in London. And, you know, there was a mixture of all sorts of people training, but it was always a bit of a mad dash for the finish on the last effort.
Yeah.
And that's always something that I, you know, believe is that, you know, your last effort in every training session should be the fastest. Because, you know, it's the last one and you should be able to lift and put in a big effort. And then when it comes to that point in a race, then you know you can do it.
Yeah.
So you know, you don't have to count the last lap, because that's just going to come naturally.
Yeah, beautiful. No, it's so true. When you mentioned about the understanding, what did you mean about like understanding the training sessions?
Well, I think just getting a feel for it and understanding the physiological reason why you're doing it. And, you know, some training sessions are to boost your endurance and your ability to be more efficient over a longer distance at a faster pace. And, you know, that's the type of training that takes a long time to develop. And, you know, I didn't really know about that for a long time in my career. Just probably in the later years, really, that I understood the benefit of, you know, not really slow running, but kind of threshold type running. You know, so you're not out there killing yourself every time. And, you know, when the coach sets you a training session, that you're not always trying to beat the times, but, you know, stick to the times, and that they're there for a purpose.
Yep. Makes sense. Thanks for that. What else do I have here? One thing I wanted to ask was if you were to give someone advice on if they were starting running and they were building up to like a 5K, for example, what would be one thing to focus on in order to kind of, like, if you were to start from scratch to a 5K, what would you focus on in order to get that 5K solid?
Well, I think initially you have to, and no matter what distance you're training for, you have to get yourself, you know, confident at running the distance and covering the distance. And then once you're good at that, then I think you get better at it. And like I used to say this, a big thing for me in the kind of mid 90s, around 1994, was to run 100 miles a week or 160 kilometers. And then when I got to that, you're kind of like, okay, well, what do you do now?
Yeah.
You know, do you keep going up to 200 kilometers, or, you know, you get better at running 160K?
Yeah.
And so I got better at running 160K. So I think you get yourself to the point. So if you're starting from absolute scratch, then you may be starting with walking and running.
Yep.
And then eventually, then you start doing more running than walking, and you see how quickly, you know, your time reduces down as you run more. And then, you know, you there's just, when the times are reducing, you're covering the distance 5,000 meters in a shorter amount of time, then your motivation is increased also, because you can see that you're improving. And I think that's a big thing. You know, people get, you know, they say, oh, I don't like to focus on the time, I don't like to wear a watch. But I think it's a great motivator for people to see how long it takes you to do something. And then as you get fitter and more confident in your ability, you can cover it in a faster time. So of course you're going to be more motivated to go out there and to work hard with your training, and also in, you know, your lifestyle, like your diet and your sleep and everything that you do, all things to help you to be a better runner.
That's cool. That's awesome. That's really, it makes me kind of want to get out there and run. It's really cool. with that, once you start covering the distance, say if it was for a 5K and you start getting efficient at that, would you focus on doing a couple of sessions that are more like anaerobically and then one aerobically, or how would you kind of go about it?
Yeah, I think you have to do some threshold type sessions, which are sessions that are slower than your race pace. So, I think when you do a threshold type session, and I don't know, it's hard to explain this to people sometimes. You're running at a level it's faster than your normal running, but it's not quite a really hard session.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing something like 5 or 6 times 3 minutes with 1 minute rest, the first few efforts should feel pretty easy. So you're running at a faster pace because when you automatically decide to run faster, your whole the way you run changes, and so you're able to do it better. If you're going out for a 5-mile run, then you can be just plodding along, and it can feel harder work sometimes than a threshold session. But when you do these 3-minute efforts, by the time you get to the 5th and the 6th effort, then it starts to get a little bit hard. And it's a combination of mental and physical, just from the repetitive nature of doing such a session. And then, the monotony of, I'm going to do this again. But that kind of stuff, it's like putting money in the bank. You're really like banking the training and building your endurance and your efficiency in running. And I think when you're very efficient at running, you start to feel fitter and lighter, and you just move better. And that's when you can start to do faster sessions, and you just bring in faster efforts into the weekly training.
Beautiful. I appreciate that, and I'm sure all the viewers will as well. I think a lot of people get some value out of that one. So, just to kind of wrap things up, so have you got much involvement in running now? I know you do a couple of bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah, I coach a few people, groups, and a lot of it is just because I enjoy doing it.
Yep.
I coach at a local club here in Mentone, the Mentone Athletic Club, and we meet every Tuesday night at 7:00, and that's quite good fun. It's good. It's nice to see people come together and that they feel they benefit, from coming together to train together, and also from having me there to give them a different type of session. And I suppose it's the way, it's not just, giving a session, but explaining the session and, watching them run around and see the benefit of it. And then I also link that in with a couple of groups in Ireland. I link in with the Cove, is a town where I'm from in County Cork, and the Cove Triathlon Club and the Ballymore Cove Athletic Club. Particularly the past year with COVID, we've kind of linked in together and done a few virtual events and competitions.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then recently I started doing a podcast, which is good fun, with Jarlath Regan. It's this great podcast. It's called An Irishman Abroad, and I'm just a branch off of that, and it's an Irishman running abroad, and it's mainly revolves around coaching Jarlath Regan, who is a comedian, but a very serious podcast interviewer. But we have a lot of fun as I try and get him to go out there and go from a non-runner to hopefully running a marathon at the end of this year. And we've got a lot of people tuning in and coming along for the ride on that as well. So
that's good fun. That's
you just need all these little things, to give you things to look forward to during the week. And I think people motivate each other, me by helping other people and seeing the benefit that they get. It gives me motivation in the training that I do now as well, which is really just for fun and fitness, and to go out there and still put a little bit of purpose into what I do in being active every day.
Oh, that's great. Thanks so much for contributing. Yeah, I know that a lot of people will get some value out of that for what we just spoke about. So just want to thank you once again, and I'm sure on behalf of everyone, just want to say thanks for your time and your input. So I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks very much, and best of luck with the summit and getting more people involved with running and fitness and taking care of themselves.
Thanks, Sonia. I appreciate it. We'll be in touch.
Right. Okay. No problem. See you.
See you, Sonia. Bye. You too.
Bye. Bye.